Okay, where did my Zoom go to? Aha. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Congratulations on making your health a priority. We are here for the doctors are in, and we are waiting for some of our other doctors to chime in. Although with the recent time change, who knows, maybe people have gotten all wonky and haven't gotten themselves situated yet with the new time change. In any case, thank you for joining us. This is our monthly community, I guess you could say town hall, fireside chat, however you want to describe it, where we just come together to explore any questions or concerns that we may have about health and wellness. So, the way that we do this is that we pretty much just open up the forum for anyone who has any questions, or if you have a family member that has made you a messenger to bring in the questions, you can feel free to do so also. Okay, so without further ado, the lines are open. You can just simply unmute yourself, and that will allow you to speak, or you can place your questions into the chat if you're shy. So let's begin. Any questions from anyone?
I will ask a question, but are those doctors of teeth going to be on today?
Oh, the dentist, he should be. I haven't gotten any message from him contrary to that. So we are hoping that our dentist will be here. If
Because,
what is the question that you want to put to pose?
well, I had a little bit of swollen gum over a crown, or where I've had a now, and I went and they gave me antibiotics, and then when I was done, the thing was still the same as before. It's not hurting,
Mhm,
but they gave me a referral to go see a specialist,
mhm.
and they're talking about maybe retreating that root canal, and I don't want to
Yes.
do that. It's already been retreated once, so
Mhm.
or else extracting the tooth. So I was just going to talk because I knew the fellow is real knowledgeable about such things and see what he says. I didn't go to take care of it, and so the people in the dentist office are saying, you're not doing a smart thing. You're that's bad for you to disregard our advice, right? So I thought I would ask somebody else some
Mhm.
advice.
Well, I will actually agree with them in this case. You know, one of the dangers of root canals is that they can become infected. And the further danger of that is that the infection can go all the way down into um, the nerves that are servicing that area, and also into the capillaries. So it'll go into your bloodstream. So that's why it's really, really critical that you decide what you're going to do with that particular situation. In the case of a root canal, um, as you said, you have the option of just removing the tooth. But if you remove the tooth, I would encourage you to go to a dentist who has experience with biologics, because again, the infection can go really, really deep. You know, some of the things that you may want to consider in the interim, just to hold you over till you get to see them, is washing your mouth out with hydrogen peroxide, the food grade hydrogen peroxide. Also, you can use things like tea tree oil, but again, a good quality food grade version of the tea tree oil, which is a antimicrobial. Um, let's see, good old salt and water, is another good antiseptic. But you really want to get to the root, no pun intended. You
Oh
want to get
yes.
to the root of the problem, which is to determine if there has been infection to, the depth of what's underneath, the root canal, because that can become really serious in terms of, as I said, allowing the bacteria to travel to other parts of your body through the bloodstream, the blood vessels that are feeding that area.
I was just thinking that if it doesn't hurt, why should I bother? But
Oh no, this is not one of those situations,
oh,
because you have a root canal. So it's not just like, oh, there's just an inflammation to the gum. And even if there were just an inflammation to the gum, you still want to address it. But because you have had that root canal, you've had, I guess you can say, the opening or the exposure, to the system. And we have this phenomenal doctor here. Oh, it is Dr. HL in the house. Woo! We are excited.
Hey.
Hey, Dr. HL. We can't hear you. We're gonna have to
Increase his volume.
Yeah, you're gonna have to increase your volume. It shows that your mic is connected, but we're not able to hear you. Still can't hear you. Can you hear us? You can nod if you can hear us. Uh-oh, he may not be able to hear us either.
He's driving.
Yeah, he's driving, so that may be part of the challenge. So, Karen, do you have something to add to that? Because Karen has a lot of experience in this area too.
Well, no, all the anti-inflammatory stuff too, like ginger and turmeric.
Oh yeah, for the inflammation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you covered all that I know.
Yeah. But you, like I said, you definitely, please get it addressed. I know, as I said, there's a time and a place for everything under the heavens. And this is one of those times that I will definitely say that you need to go to a medical professional to get that addressed. Can you hear us, Dr. H? Uh-oh, he still can't hear us. Uh-oh, he's on frozen, but he'll be coming in.
Where are you located?
I am located near St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, cool. I used to live in St. Louis, but I don't know. It was so long ago. I know some holistic dentists here in Texas, but not.
Can you hear us, Dr. H?
Now I can hear you. Yeah.
Woo!
Can you hear me?
All right.
All right, I solved it.
Yay. Richard here has a question about root canals in terms of an infection. Richard, you want to go ahead and share?
All I said was that I had a little swollen gum, and it wouldn't go away, but it wasn't hurting. And I went to see the dentist, and he gave me some antibiotics. And when they were finished, this condition was still the same. But he gave me a referral to go see a specialist in case the tooth had to I either had to have a retreat and a new root canal or extract the tooth.
Is this Dr. Chris? Is this Dr. Laing? Yes, yes, we have our dentist. Woohoo! Dr. Chris, you had me sweating there. I'm here trying to field this here question. I'm sweating bullets trying to give this guy some suggestions. But I'm going to definitely refer to your expertise now. So Richard,
if you could please just repeat the question. I'm so sorry for being late. I was just trying to get done in the clinic.
No problem. So for the third time, and then we're still going to go back to Dr. H to add on once Dr. Laing is addressed it. But for the third time, Richard, can you share with us what the situation is?
I had a little swollen gum, and the dentist, and it was over the place where I had a root canal twice. It was retreated once, and so he gave me some antibiotics to take care of the swelling, and I finished that, but nothing really changed. He gave me a referral to see a specialist in case I needed another root canal or an extraction. He says, this one, having been treated before, it might just need to come out. And of course, I'd rather not lose that tooth because I've already had two pulled out, and I haven't replaced them yet. So I hadn't gone to the specialist yet because it wasn't hurting. And so
Yes, sir.
I think I probably did unwisely and better schedule a visit to the specialist.
I agree with that, sir. Let's start from the beginning, okay?
Yeah.
So why was the tooth originally treated?
Actually, to make it interesting, I was in China at the time, and it started hurting a lot. And so I went to a dentist in China, and he barely could speak English. He spoke English with a real funny accent, but I understood about half or a third of what he said. Anyway, after I got back home, I had to have that retreated by a dentist who said it wasn't a very good job, and so
I see.
then he put a crown on it, and that's why the original root canal and the retreatment.
So,
And so-
Dr. Laing, just to give you a synopsis of what I told him, so you can correct me if I'm wrong with anything.
Okay.
I told him that he definitely needs to go to the specialist because the infection
Absolutely.
could have gotten all the way down to the bone, and there are capillaries that can take that infection to other parts of the body. So I suggested that
Yes.
he make that appointment almost like yesterday. And in the interim,
Yes.
he can use things like hydrogen peroxide, tea tree oil, and other things, salt, to be able to rinse out the mouth.
Yes.
But he needs to get in ASAP.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So with this, with these inner areas of the tooth, I'm going to say, okay, a tooth is essentially 3 layers. We don't have to get into it, but essentially the deepest part of the tooth is that pulp chamber. Okay. And so there is in fact an artery in the pulp. There is a vein in the pulp, and then there is a nerve. Okay. And so when you got that root canal done, okay, and you essentially have a shell of a tooth, there's still vessels on the outside of the tooth that still nourish the support to the tooth, which is why you can keep the tooth in the mouth. Okay. Now, as far as the retreat goes, I would also recommend you go to the specialist for a couple of reasons. One, depending on how the root canal was treated, I'm a really big proponent of microscopy. And so to be able to visualize the tooth under a microscope gives you a lot of advantage, okay? And so most specialists are the ones who are gonna do that. There aren't very many general doctors doing root canals in that way, let alone using the microscope, okay? The other thing is that there could be a potential crack in the tooth. And so it could be, that despite, your skepticism about who was doing it, there could be parts of the tooth that you cannot necessarily determine are accessible or clean. And so specialists are also going to have instruments in this situation, what's called a CBCT. It's a cone beam, basically CAT scan. And they can determine if in fact there are areas in the tooth that have not been instrumented or cleaned, or in fact that there's a crack, okay? Now, with retreated teeth, I kind of want to prepare you, we're kind of reaching our end of treatment, okay? I think at this point, they may say that a retreatment is necessary, or if there is skepticism about the very furthest extent, basically the tip of the tooth or the root surface, the root is where the problem is. You can also do surgical endo. So basically they can chop off the end of the root and possibly create a better seal on the tooth. But all of that would have to be determined by the specialist. And so you definitely want to make an appointment if your intent is to keep the tooth. And then I'm going to tell you really have to keep your options open. It may be a situation where we just can't do it. We just can't save the tooth. You got to prepare yourself because you don't want to kind of take that gut punch in the office. You know what I mean?
Dr.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Dr. H, is there something that you can add?
I think that what you and Dr. Laing have shared is brilliant, first and foremost. I think that my recommendation would also be to make sure you're in a good relationship with a holistic dentist who can discuss with you non-toxic, bioidentical compounds if there is an opportunity to save a tooth, something that may be a bioidentical polymer or something of that sort. But I also think it's very interesting for us to look at a meridian chart that's associated with the teeth. One of the things that is very intriguing is to see which meridian is associated with the tooth that is damaged, injured, and so forth, because it may give insight to what's going on an internal level and give you some more ideas of ways that you can support your body's holistic overall health.
Oh, that's wonderful. This is Catherine. Hi, everybody.
That is awesome, Dr. H. I had forgotten everything about the correspondences with all of the teeth and the various systems of the body. So depending on which tooth is infected or damaged, that can also give you insights into other chronic health conditions that you may have that you may not even realize are related to that infected tooth. Awesome.
That is so good. Can I just jump in a little thing
here?
Yeah. So I've had some teeth that need repair and actually have broken off. And I haven't done it because I wanted it done properly to fix it. And so is it Dr. Laing, you're the dentist, right?
Yeah, Dr. Laing is a dentist, and
so
Dr. H is also an integrated.
Is there a way we can get a referral from somebody in St. Louis, or can you help us find somebody in St. Louis?
Is there a website that you can go to for holistic dentists, Dr. H or Dr. Laing?
I don't know of any, to be honest.
Dr. H?
Yeah, there are several that have directories of holistic dentists throughout the country. And basically a simple Google search will help you find a few of those. It's how I found a dentist for my son when he had a cracked tooth and we needed to have it extracted. It was actually a great relationship. We've worked with Dr. Rastian in Beverly Hills, California previously, and there's some in Oregon, but they're not necessarily easy to find, but there are directories out there.
Pretty. Thank you so much.
Is there something like IFM, that in the area of dentistry? I'm pretty sure there is. I know I've dealt with this issue before in terms of a holistic dentist. I can't remember what the directory was that I used, but I'll look back into it again, Richard.
And I would defer to Dr. Laing, because to me it's a holistic dentist or somebody that's referred by somebody that you trust, like anybody Dr. Laing would refer to or something like that. I would trust what he says. When you could start he was dropping some knowledge right there, on the extra tools people have. That's definitely. I was just sitting there taking mental notes. Like, that's pretty cool. So I would trust the doctor.
Yeah, with the cone beam, that was awesome.
Yes, sir. I'm going to tell you, this is actually an area that I'm personally trying to investigate. There are a lot of colleagues that I have that just to kind of drop a few modes of treatment that are available. There's a lot of what's called ozone treatment, and they're doing things like that. I'm really not abreast with how beneficial it is to the patient. Like I was, if you would have been on the last show, my position is I want to know these things because not all patients, as we know, are amenable to traditional medicine. And so if I can guide them in a way, I'd like to know those things. So personally, I'm in the process of learning about these things. I'm really not familiar about the benefits or, to go one way or another versus holistic or not. I do believe that generally, overall health, these things are definitely beneficial. I have yet to learn how to make the distinction between the two, given the situation.
Yeah. So that's the beauty of all of you coming to forums like this, because you guys inspire us to learn more. When you guys bring up certain questions and we're like, I don't know, that's that's how we get inspired to go back to school or go back to the drawing board to learn more. We are lifelong learners. So we
Truly.
appreciate the fact that you guys are challenging us to constantly push the needle and learn more. Now, Dr. H, I've got a question to throw to you. Someone wrote to me saying that her husband is 77 years old, and she and her husband do not want to take the vaccine, but she wanted to know if you have any insight into what are the ingredients in the vaccine, because she thinks if she had more of an idea of what the ingredients are, she'd be able to convince her husband not to do the vaccine. So I knew that you'd be the perfect person to ask.
Yeah, well, as far as the ingredients of the vaccine, the primary active ingredient is an mRNA sequence. My biggest concern, Dr. Michelle, with that is that it's proprietary at this time. And that means that Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, well, Johnson & Johnson is going to be a little bit different. So just Pfizer and Moderna with that are going to have the ability to modify the mRNA sequence kind of at their own discretion without reinitiating the clinical trial. So that right off the bat is a big concern for me of something of this magnitude. Because as it goes, whenever you make any change to an existing vaccine, it's supposed to reinstitute clinical trial to confirm that those changes are indeed safe and effective. So that's concerning for me right off the bat with these. The next thing that is concerning for me is when I look at the vaccine adverse events reporting system. As of the 6th of March, 1,524 people have been confirmed dead after administration of the biologics. Now, we always say correlation does not equal causation, and I agree with that statement. But my big concern with that becomes when we investigate the individual reports, at least 471 of them, and I think it's over a little over 500, died within 24 hours of receiving the biologics. It's very concerning for me, particularly when we look at the age demographic distribution. The vast majority of fatalities post-administration have been above 65 years of age.
Wow.
So that makes it very, very concerning for me right there. I think it's important for people to know that if they have comorbidities, that's a concern for adverse events. If they are immunocompromised in any way, that is a concern for adverse reactions, intensity of adverse reactions. And if they especially are nutrient deficient in vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin C, and zinc, that is another concern for intensity and increased likelihood of adverse events. So at that age, I would be very cautious.
Dr. H, one thing, we had a question, what is a biologic? And when Dr. H uses the term biologic, it's because we acknowledge that it's technically not a vaccine. It's just an experimental biological entity that they are injecting into people at this time. And in many ways, it doesn't even interact in the body like a traditional vaccine. So that is why Dr. H is being very selective in how he's referring to it. And then the second thing for us to really keep in the top of our minds is that these are the reported cases. And the VAERS system has been known to be only reporting 1% of the actual number of people that are injured traditionally by vaccine. So if we take that 1,000, almost 500, and multiply that by 100, those numbers are really not looking good.
Right. Yeah, Dr. Michelle, let me comment on that a little bit, because there was in 2014 a study done by Harvard and in accordance with the Health and Human Services Department that shows that less than 1% of adverse events get identified, number one, first of all, and then reported to the vaccine adverse events reporting system. However, for these experimental COVID biologics, and I like you said, I use biologics because that's the term the National Institutes of Health uses to refer to them, because we're not sure that they meet the legal criteria for a vaccine at this time. But under the emergency use authorization, all doctors and nurses and administrators of vaccine of this experimental biologic are required for the first time to report to Veris. So that 1% we can't really use with this because that's an easy way for us to be labeled conspiracy theorists on something like this.
So
I agree
the
with you that it's underreported.
When you say that they're reporting, are they actually calling up every single person who has gotten these vaccines and saying, hey, are you okay? Or are they just waiting for people to self-report? Because that's the concern.
Right. Yeah, the big question you raised right there, which you're right on the money with, is they started putting out propaganda telling people that if you have a side effect, it's a sign that the vaccine is working, that the biologic is working. And that's absolutely 100% unethical and incorrect. It's a sign of injury and should be reported as such. But when you tell people it's a sign that it's working, now they're less apt to report to the nurse or the doctor. And if the nurse or doctor isn't reported to, then they can't report to Veris, to the Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System. So that is definitely a problem with this. The marketing, the propaganda around it is a huge problem for us. And what a lot of people don't know about these experimental COVID biologics is we use the word experimental because they're still in phase 3 development. The clinical trials do not end until October 27th, 2022 and January 31st, 2023. So with that in mind, it tells us that we don't have long-term data. We cannot, and the FDA backs me up on this, we cannot definitively say that they are safe, and we cannot definitively say they are effective either. And the FDA admits all of this, but state health agencies and people who are administrating are putting out a lot of misinformation by saying they're FDA approved. They are not FDA approved. And by saying that they're safe and effective. There is no long-term data to support such capricious statements at this time.
Now, if we go back to the question of the ingredients, do we have any idea of the adjuvants that are used in this particular line? And what about information that I'm receiving that says certain ones are using the cell lines of aborted babies?
Yeah, as far as this, the only thing we've been able to confirm in terms of ingredients is from MIT that did a puff piece for Pfizer and listed out the ingredients. The major ingredients were the mRNA sequence, the lipid layer that encapsulates the mRNA sequence, and then a couple of other known chemicals that are concerning because they have the ability to, and we have reference from them from the environmental working group showing them to be potential endocrine disruptors, so hormonal disruptors. So that's very concerning, specific to the Pfizer. What's really concerning, though, for me, Dr. Michelle, is that this isn't a part of most informed consent, that they aren't telling people what's actually in them. So most people don't realize even that there are mRNA sequences that are co-opting their cellular function. Most people just think it's the SARS-CoV-2 virus that's been isolated and weakened like traditional vaccines. So it's part and parcel to the misinformation that's going around on this right now. And it's really a violation of 45 CFR 46, which are informed consent laws that protect against human experimentation. So the big concern we're having is that informed consent really is not being met on this topic, and people are rushing into it because they think if they get it, they'll be protected. There's no evidence to support that. They think it'll prevent them from getting the disease. There's no evidence at this time to support that. And they think it's been properly, safely tested for safety when it absolutely has not. And it's just, it's concerning because a lot of people just want to get back to life as they knew it previously. And they think if they get this, that will happen. And that's not the case. So it's really concerning for us.
And what's also concerning to me, as you said, is that generally speaking, when you get a vaccine, there's an insert that gives you a list of the ingredients. And for all that they keep saying that, oh, we're going to be transparent, they have not released that information in details. And Dr. H, can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by the mRNA? Because many of us may not really be understanding clearly the implications of what this is.
Sure. Well, the new technology with these biologics is an mRNA technology or a DNA technology, depending upon the vaccine. The Pfizer and the Moderna are both mRNA technologies, so let's talk about that. In your cell, your beautiful, lovely, God-given cells, you have a whole bunch of wise functions that work beautifully if we just give them some key nutrients. One of those functions is called ribosomes. Ribosomes are little organelles within your cells that help manufacture protein sequences. So imagine this. If you think back to the 1920s, you can probably think back to a time where there were ticker tape parades, right? There's a parade going down the street. People are throwing these huge, long streamers of thin tape, right? Well, the ribosomal subunit is like the ticker tape maker. So what it does is it creates these long sequences of amino acids, and it basically, it's used to repair the body, to create proteins that help detoxify the cell, to repair the cell. It's instrumental in carrier protein synthesis and so forth. So it's this awesome feature that we have. So what Pfizer and Moderna have done is they are co-opting that functioning by inserting an mRNA sequence that the cell will upload and then start making viral fragments of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And they think these viral fragments won't injure the cell, won't be problematic, and are not infectious. That's what they think, okay? And what we see when you co-opt cellular function, they're basically turning a person's body into a SARS-CoV-2 viral fragment producing factory is the best description. They're turning your body into a virus producing factory, but a virus fragment producing factory, to be really precise. And then when the cell dies, the viral fragments are released and they are identified by your immune system as an antigen, as something that is anti-life and not supposed to be there. So then the immune system will attack them and start to develop antibodies. And those antibodies are supposed to confer immunity against the SARS-CoV-2 virus, but we don't have empirical evidence to substantiate that. We have a lot of people saying that it does, and we have a lot of people making assumptions that it does, but we don't have definitive clinical, scientific, empirical evidence to substantiate that because they've never tested the binding capacity of these antibodies to the isolated SARS-CoV-2 virus. So they're doing a lot of what they accuse us of, pseudoscience in here, because they have fancy technology and they can use big words that they think most people don't understand, in my opinion.
Thank you for breaking that down for us, Dr. HL.
You know,
so, Karen, you have a question?
I do. So I know somebody who's in her 70s and had both shots, one of the mRNA ones. After the first one, she had erratic blood pressure, and then she went ahead and got the second one. She was in the hospital for 17 days. They thought she was going to die. They had all kinds of doctors come in. They finally brought in an infectious disease doctor who thought it was the shot, but she couldn't say for sure. And so I'm sure that's not reported as an adverse event. But anyway, so my mom knows this person, and the person told my mom not to get the shot, and right now she's not going to. But she has said that something that concerns me. She said if she was going to get one, it would be the Johnson & Johnson one because it's not mRNA. And I haven't looked into it, but somebody told me that one is like the AstraZeneca one. Is that true?
And do we have the ingredients for the Johnson & Johnson one, Dr. H?
Yeah, the Johnson & Johnson, we've just started reviewing right now on it. The concern, the AstraZeneca, I think we're all concerned about, and it's really nice to see that last check, I think it's 14 countries have banned it in their country, and starting with India, which is, that's say a lot right there, right? My understanding of the Johnson & Johnson is that it's attached to a genetically modified adenovirus. And my concern becomes that we are doing a lot of modifications, but we are attempting to still use natural adaptive immunity. My thought process is very simple here. Why not just get infected by the actual virus? If this whole process is about natural adaptive immunity, why would somebody who's scared of getting this virus get injected with something that is still in clinical trial when there's no proof that it's going to stop future infections, and we do have evidence of harm?
Yeah.
It's very concerning to me. So I'm not educated enough on the Johnson & Johnson at this moment to be able to speak intelligently about it. But I think when you have people who've gone through it warning you against it, that should mean something. And I think when somebody has definitively been correlated with the injury to a Pfizer or Moderna, that it's important to make sure that their experience was reported to Veris and that there is a federal record of it, because that's what we're going to use to establish whether or not there's causation here. This is the first time in vaccine history that we have a pseudo surveillance system going on to understand just how many people really do get injured and how many people really do die after the administration of these things, and why they should never be mandated because of the extensive level of risk associated with it. So,
is there a way to confirm whether or not your reactions have been reported? I mean, do you get a receipt from your doctor saying, here, this is proof that I reported this to Veris?
There is absolutely a way to confirm it. You just have to go, you can ask the doctor for the Veris report number. And then you can go to CDC Wonder. You can, and that's the Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System. And you can actually go in and look at the entire record and see what they wrote in on your record. But Dr. Michelle, what's really interesting about this is the person who feels they've been vaccine injured can also report to Veris. And so it doesn't have to be the nurse or the doctor. Anyone can report to Veris and put in their own record of injury. And that's why it's important for us to educate the public in knowing that if you have an injury is not a sign that the experimental COVID biologic is working. It's actually just the opposite. It's a sign that it is injuring your body. And that's the concern with this new technology that got rushed to market. No vaccine has ever made it to market in less than 4 years. Most take 8 to 10 years. This made it to market from conception to production in 7 months. That's unconscionable. It's unconscionable for something of this magnitude.
So if someone wants to report a vaccine injury, they would just go to VAERS.com?
I don't know if that's the exact URL, but they can certainly Google VAERS, and there are 7 criteria that are clearly listed on there for how to report an injury to Veris specific for any of the COVID biologics. All of them currently are grouped together into one category on the Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System.
Okay. All righty. Yes, a question.
Yes, I wonder if you think you have had COVID, can you get tested even after the symptoms are gone and see if you haven't had it or not?
Yes, there is a way to do that. It's through EUA-approved antibody testing, and we have seen that people are showing positive IgG antibodies upwards of 10 months following the infection, what they're calling a wild infection. So, they always have to allude to the danger of something as if being in the wild is dangerous, right? So, yes, it's antibody testing.
UEA antibodies.
Yeah. So what you can do also,
Just ask for antibody testing. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
if you go to your practitioner, you
Uh-huh.
can ask that for that, or you can also go to our webpage, sankofahealing.com, and go under resources, and we
Uh-huh.
have the lab testing that you can actually order your own lab test to get this done. And
Okay.
so you just put in,
I appreciate it.
yeah. So if you have any difficulty with that, just let me know, okay?
Okay. And I just wanted to report a little, can I? I actually think I might have had that last week, and I had the hydrochloroquine and the zinc and the vitamin D and all that stuff ready. Thanks to you guys.
Yay!
Thanks to you guys. I had it all ready, and I started taking it. I've done a lot of stuff for my health other than that too. So I kept up my routine, but I added that in there. My husband actually started it first, the hydrochloroquine.
Hydroxychloroquine.
Hydroxychloroquine. If I ever learned how to say that word, I would be, I don't know what. And so I always butcher it. But anyway, I was so thankful for it
Yay.
because I have a history of asthma, and I was a little bit afraid that if I got this, well, my son-in-law thought I was going to die if I got it. But I mean, he really did. And actually, I really think it really did fortify me, whether I had the virus or not.
Mhm.
Psychologically, it was a protection for me because I knew I could do something about it.
So it would be very good, like you said, to get that test done, just to have confirmation for yourself. And also, if they start rolling out these passports and all that silly nonsense, you would have a record that you've already been exposed, so that
Yes.
you wouldn't be required to do further testing or vaccines and things like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Another question, Richard?
Yeah, we have been in a lot of conversation with our son-in-law, who is an MD, and he is one of the biggest proponents of taking the vaccine because he's talking in his sincerity, believing that there's so many well-meaning people in the healthcare industry. There can't be a conspiracy because these people are just trying to save people and promote their health. And I just wonder if you have a couple of comments that we could share with him that would make him question his knowingness that it can't be harmful, it must be good. He's a radiological pediatrician, so he's not trained in vaccines. But so I just wish I could say something that would cause him to question his knowingness.
Well, I have to say that Dr. H's YouTube channel is phenomenal. So one other thing, someone asked, where can you get the hydroxychloroquine? You can go to America's Frontline Doctors, Google their website. And when you go to them, you can have a virtual consultation with them, and they can assist you with that. But Dr. H, can you share with us what your YouTube channel is that people can go to get to see all those phenomenal videos on this issue?
Sure. Yeah, you can go to Energetic Health Institute on the YouTube channel. You can also go to energetichealthinstitute.org and take a look around there. We have a COVID update page that we post videos and our peer-reviewed manuscript on as well. So a lot of information there for you. Richard, first of all, I would say we just published our 5th peer-reviewed manuscript. It'd be interesting for him to read it. It's 188 pages, but we have all empirical evidence. Everything is referenced, and we have top-level executive summaries too.
Dr. H, I know you have given me a copy. Do I have permission to share that with them?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the V24.4, please share. And it's about to go on a nationwide release, looks like on Monday, with a call to action campaign for people who want to see this investigated, want to see a grand jury investigate everything that's been going on, so we can get down to the truth, right? So we can get down to, is there a conspiracy or is there not? But we deserve to have a definitive on that. Richard, when I work with doctors, I found it to be very successful, rather than telling them things, to ask them questions. So I'm going to give you 3 questions you can ask him, okay?
Okay.
The first question would be, when is the last time he reviewed the vaccine adverse events reporting system for COVID-19 vaccine?
So when did he last review the VAERS? Is that it?
Right, VAERS, yeah, VAERS for COVID vaccine injuries and deaths. That'd be my first thing with him, okay? A lot of doctors, you're going to find, Richard, are under the assumption that the biologics haven't been, or the vaccines haven't ever killed anybody. That's just nonsense, okay? The next question I would ask him is are these biologics still in clinical trials?
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, and then if I would say according to the NIH, that way you're using big letters that should mean a lot to doctors. According to the NIH, are these still in clinical trials?
Uh-huh.
And then the third question I would ask him, are there evidence-based treatments for this, for COVID-19? And he'll probably say no on that last one. Then, so you follow up with another question, then how did 28 million Americans recover from this?
Yes.
Okay, and I will tell you, in our 5th paper, Richard, we have pages and pages and pages, over 100 references on evidence, showing evidence-based treatments exist for this. And it's beyond discussion at this point. Anybody who's saying that they don't exist is taking the ostrich approach to science and burying their head in the sand. And it's to the detriment of their patients if they're doing that.
Yeah.
So did
in
you
my professional opinion.
And we're going to put Dr. H's document into a Google Drive and give you the link so that you can share that with family, friends, your medical practitioners, as many people as possible, because it is important for us to get this information out. And when I tell you the report is awesome, it is awesome. I mean, 188 pages of goodiness, and everything is well documented and referenced. It is phenomenal.
Super.
Dr. Michelle, to share that one, can I ask you to share it on Monday? Or I'm going to send out a link to Stand for Health Freedom to the Action Campaign this weekend. They're going to have all that information for us by Friday, and you're on that list along with Dr. Charles and Dr. Laing, everybody.
Okay, so I will hold off until Monday then, but be on the lookout. Look in your boxes on Monday. So I will send you the link to this particular recording and to the resource on Monday instead of what I usually do, which is tomorrow. So just hold up, people. It's coming. It's coming.
Oh, you guys are doing such good work. I'm really thinking that.
Well, the whole thing, you guys, is to share the word, spread the word. And I want to thank Dr. H. I want to thank Dr. Chris and all of you for being a part of our village call, because it is important for us to be there, to support each other, to be able to ask questions, to be able to raise concerns, and most importantly, to be in communion with each other. You know, that is what they are trying to do, to separate us, to make us feel isolated, and that makes us feel weak. So when we come together, we have that energetic synergy that makes us realize that there is hope and that there is healing for our community. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. We look forward to seeing you next month. Remember to send in your questions. Yes, you got one more question?
I just wanted to ask Dr. Lang a little something. I wonder if he could just stay on just for a minute after
Yeah,
we're done.
sure. Dr. Lang.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Okay, thanks.
What's the question?
Oh, but I didn't mean that we all had to stay
No,
on.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to know what questions I should ask to find out if I have a dentist that is a holistic. What do I call it? What questions do I ask? Because I'm really wanting to get my teeth done, and I hesitated because.
Oh, I think that is from Dr. H.
Oh,
Yes.
that's Dr. H.
Yes.
H. What does she need to ask to find out if she's dealing with a dentist who has that skill set? Let's put it.
Yeah.
Well, I do think that Dr. Laing is eminently more qualified to answer this question as well. So Dr. Laing, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. But the question I encourage people to ask is, number one, do you use mercury? I think there's so many biocompatible composites available now that I think that's important for dentists to be educated on. And I also think it's important for a dentist to be knowledgeable on the safe removal of amalgam mercury fillings. And to that end, the question I ask is, do you use a rubber dental dam? Because if a doctor does do that, then they know about it and they know how to remove mercury from the mouth safely. And if they don't, typically what they'll say is, I don't use it, but I use this instead because this is better. We've evolved. And so that's when you know you're working with dentists who are doing what Dr. Laing does a very good job of. I'm very confident in staying lifelong students. Doctor just means teacher. That's all it means. And if we're going to be really good teachers, it means that we never stop being students. You know?
Correct.
Yes.
So Dr. Laing, what do you think, Dr. Laing?
So I think I love all your points, and so I want to kind of clarify on them so that she'll know or have a better idea of what to expect. Okay. So very few, because of I'd say the culture of dentistry right now, you will most likely not have to worry about the application of mercury. Okay. Mercury was a component in what we commonly call amalgam, and it's basically a combination of metals that are amalgamated by mercury. Okay. So it's basically gold, silver, tin, copper, and zinc. And those are the metals that are going to be in the amalgam. We typically do not use those anymore. And so I mean, like 9 times out of 10, you will not have a doctor who uses that. And if they do use it, it's in a very specific situation where it's hard to isolate. You know, there are a lot of concerns that may hinder, what you would ideally want to use, but those concerns are very few and far between nowadays. Okay. As far as, and again, this is where, our lifelong learning comes in, because as far as I know, it's the organic forms of mercury that are most toxic. Okay. And so you're going to get those organic forms before the medicals are amalgamated and ready and prepared to be placed in the tooth. And then also it becomes organic when it's cut out. Okay. So cutting it out is more of a concern to me than placing it.
Oh.
Okay. And so he's very true. Rubber dams are very necessary. You're going to get hit or miss with who's using them. Okay. Because for most dentists, it's more about isolation and keeping the bacteria and saliva from getting in your work field, rather than contaminating the rest of the mouth because of what you're cutting out of the tooth. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. So as far as
brother-in-law who's a dentist, and he uses some sort of something to clean the mouth, make sure where they're working is really clean and stuff like that.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Okay. And so, high volume evacuation is real big. They have all kind of like super straw. We have something called like an isolite, where it's like a suction and a light all together. All that stuff works, but if you really want to isolate the tooth and basically keep your work field small, you got to use a rubber dam.
A rubber dam is what you
Right. But most doctors are using it to isolate and not necessarily to protect you from contamination.
Oh.
So it has
You
to
see
be
what
able
I'm
to do both, is what you're saying.
it will do both. I'm just saying you're most likely not going to get a doctor who, okay, so if you go to a random doctor in town, or if you go to a random doctor anyway, and you just so happen to fail to find someone who characterizes themselves as a holistic doctor, most times they're going to use the rubber dam as an isolation tool. I need to keep the tooth surface decontaminated from the bacteria floating around in your saliva, not necessarily decontaminating the mouth from what I'm cutting out of the tooth.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes. So,
And so I just don't want you to be disappointed.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't want you. Yeah. And so the rubber dam itself will do both.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
Dr. Laing,
Okay.
can I ask a question, Dr. Laing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, Dr. Laing, what would you say? My experience has been that a lot of people, doctors that are really good at what they do, dentists included, of course, they love
Yes.
telling, like they love educating, right?
Absolutely.
So like if you ask a question about the dental dam or just your general procedures for safety,
Yes.
what would you say about a dentist who isn't very open to a prospective patient? What guidance would you give someone on that?
You can ask him, and most times I think they would be willing to accommodate you. It unfortunately it really doesn't have. Okay, so what I don't want you to do is to implicate the doctor's intention. Okay,
Right.
what he's gonna do is use what he knows that allows him to do the procedure confidently.
Right.
Okay, and so that's what I'm saying. Like, so I think 9 times out of 10, if you say, "Listen, I'm really concerned about this. Would you mind using a rubber dam, or is that something you do?" He should not be averse to it. I'm going to tell you where you're going to run into trouble. If he doesn't use rubber dam is surprisingly, it's pretty technical. And if you don't do it all the time, it will frustrate you. Trying to isolate the teeth, trying to get the rubber dam in position to where it's not obstructing any of what you're doing. And so for that reason, that's why I say it like that. Whatever he does, it's because he wants to do it so that he can confidently complete the procedure, get it done, get you out. Make that a good experience for you.
Right.
And so, I think, yeah.
Mostly wondering, I'm still finding the dentist. And so I wanted to, so these questions are really good for me to ask. Just say,
Yes.
I'm looking for a dentist and this is the kind
Yeah.
of.
Do you use rubber dam? You
Yeah.
just ask them just like that. Listen, these are my concerns. You might have to wait until you get to the actual visit. So be prepared to go in and maybe have to leave. You want to be committed and you want to be convicted in what you again, I am full support and taking ownership of your health. It is not offensive to me, at least, and it shouldn't be offensive to any other doctor where we don't agree on the approach and we decide to part ways, because this relationship has to be built on trust.
Yes.
And so if you don't trust me to do what I'm doing, or it doesn't jive with what you think, is appropriate, I should not be offended as long as we can talk about that civilly. You know what I'm saying? Listen, doctor, this is what I kind of want to make sure I undergo when I sit under you. This is what makes me feel safe. If you don't do it, cool, but I'm going to try to find somebody who does. That can't be offensive.
Trust and mutual respect.
Trust and mutual respect.
I included in the chat a link to Holistic Dental Association.
There you go.
They have find a holistic dentist.
There you go.
Have their philosophy and all that kind of good stuff.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
100% what Dr. Laing said on that. Our job is to develop a relationship, a partnership, and that's built on mutual trust. A good doctor is going to love questions.
Yes.
Right? A good doctor is going to be like, "Oh my God, thank you. You've done your homework." I love when my patients come in with printouts from all over the place on the web. I love it. Some of it isn't good
but it gives us great conversation.
Conversation. Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
my
sir.
duty is to be able to explain why something is valid or why it's not. And
Let's
then
make that
step
make
back
sense.
and let you make the decision.
That's right.
Because it's your life, it's your health.
That's right. That's right. Let's make that make sense.
Awesome, awesome. So I hope that helps everyone.
That's wonderful. Thank you guys. Oh, this is the best.
Aim to please, we're here to serve.
Okay.
Thank you, wonderful, illustrious dental and medical doctors. We love, love, love you. We appreciate you. And we behold the wonders of God who works through you. Thank you for all you do. And thank you for sharing with us this evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Have a great evening. Good night.
Okay.
See you
Bye-bye.
next time.